Ciao amici, it's Natalia and welcome to my channel. On this channel I tell about my life in Italy and my small business journey. I own an apparel brand named APPAREL and you can check it on Instagram. Today I will tell you about 7 things that I just hate about living in Italy. Before, I already made a video about the things that I love about living in Italy, and you can check this video in the description. I will leave the link there. First of all, I should say that if you want to move to Italy, you should really love this country and its culture, because otherwise some problems here will just drive you crazy. Other skill that you should have, you should know how to make money, otherwise it can be quite hard here. Some of the problems about living in Italy that I will name in this video are valid only for foreigners, for immigrants, for people of other culture that moved here, but most of these problems are also valid for Italians. First, let's talk about Italian bureaucracy. If you decide to move to Italy, Italian bureaucracy will make you cry and beg for mercy, believe me, just as it did to me many times. Consider that when I moved to Italy, I already could speak Italian quite well, and still it was quite hard for me to figure out how to do the documents, the residence permit and so on. So I can imagine what a nightmare it can be for a person that doesn't speak Italian. Mostly all of these problems with bureaucracy are a consequence of the fact that Italy is not very digitally advanced. So for example, when you need to apply for your residence permit, you can do it just online, as I think it should be in 2023, but you need to fill in all the paper documents and send the documents kits on the post office, what I consider just such a waste of time. And besides that, you really risk that they can lose your documents, because of course the letters can be lost somewhere on the way. So it already happened to my friend. After you apply to the residence permit, you may wait for months to get it. I mean, you get an appointment to confirm on the documents, but then after you bring all the documents there for the appointments, you should also wait sometimes up to 6 months. It happened to me, so you're just blocked in the country because you can't travel without the permit. The same is about booking the medical appointments, for example, because they have some kind of like digital system, but it's never updated. You need to call and so on. So really bureaucracy stuff, I mean all the documents preparation, all the registrations and so on, it becomes a very long and very tiring process. Second problem that is valid not only for foreigners, but especially for foreigners, but also for Italians, is that it's really hard to get a job in Italy. Like the unemployment rate is quite high for many years already, and besides that the salaries are very low if you compare them to the cost of living. Of course it depends on your profession, on your skills and your unique skills. But in general, even if you have education, even if you speak different languages, even if you have experience, it's really hard to find a decent job in Italy. I mean, you can do it, but it requires a lot of patience. And be ready that you will need up to 6 months, sometimes even more, to find a decent job that will pay you decently. For example, I have higher education. I mean, I have a bachelor's degree, I have 2 master's degrees. One of them I did in Italy. I speak 5 languages. I had work experience, not in Italy but in Russia, but anyway, I had like 7 years of work experience when I moved to Italy, and still with all these skills, I needed several months to find just stage, just to start my working path in this country. So if you consider supporting yourself financially in Italy from the beginning, be ready that it can be quite hard. And all these problems are relevant also for Italians. I mean, I know that many of my Italian friends who live here, who also have quite many skills and experience, they really suffer to find good job positions. What about the salary? Like the average salary, and this is valid for North Italy, that is much richer than South Italy. And the average salary for young people, and I mean young is in your 30s, not in your 20s, is 1,500 euros. If you consider the cost of living in Milan, for example, and consider that to rent just a room, I'm not talking about apartment, but just a room, it will cost you around 700 euros. Also your bills like electricity, gas, and so on, it will be around 200 euros. So you can calculate and see how much is rest for your life. So really, if you calculate all the spendings in a big city, you can understand that this salary is just miserable, and it's an average salary. Like, to get a higher salary, or you have to have some very particular profession, for example, I don't know, doctors, like medical doctors, some lawyers, and so on. They can earn quite well, not much more than that, but they can earn a decent salary. But if you have just normal job, I don't know, for example, you work in the office with marketing, like I worked with marketing here, this is the average salary that you can consider. After I had all this experience with like employment in Italy, and looking for the job, looking for some company that I liked, that can offer good conditions, I realized that it's really easier to invent your own job here. I mean, to do your own project like I did a couple of years ago, because of course you have more risks, but if you are digitally advanced, if you have some particular skills that are precious nowadays, you can earn more, and you can also have a more free life. So you don't need to depend on the vacation days, you can create your work-life balance as you want. So in the end, at least with all the risks, you also don't have the limits, because if you work smart and hard enough, you can earn more than the average salary in this country. The next problem, and the thing that I really hate about living in Italy, are high taxes and contributions. Taxes in Italy are really crazy. I mean, the system that we have here doesn't motivate you at all to work more and grow, and I will explain you why. I have a small business, as I already told you. I own an apparel brand, I have an e-commerce, like online store, and by now I'm, let's say, in light tax regime. That is called regime forfettario in Italy. And in this case, for the first 5 years, if you don't have the revenue that is beyond 85,000 euro per year, and in this case, if your revenue is not beyond 85,000 euro per year, you pay only 5% of taxes from the 40% of your revenue. But consider that you can't do any tax deduction. I mean, you can't deduct any costs of your business. For example, I can deduct materials, I can't deduct shipping, I can't deduct anything. So I just pay 5% of the tax from the 30% of my revenue. But if your revenue becomes more than 85,000 euro per year, you immediately pay up to 50% of taxes. That I find just crazy. I mean, which business can survive with these conditions? And it's just about taxes, because besides the taxes, I also have pension contributions. For example, in my case, I pay every 3 months more than 700 euros of pension contributions, even if my revenue was 0 this month. So it doesn't depend how much I made this month, I need to pay this amount anyway. And for me it's just insane, because I don't understand who will be ready to risk without knowing if he or she can make the amount of money that is enough to cover all these contributions, all the taxes, all the spendings and so on. So you're really not motivated to open a small business in this country. I was just desperate and I decided to do it because I just hate 9-to-5 jobs, so I just needed to do something else. Another problem is not about money or job, it's about food. I call this phenomenon food fascism. I know it's a bit harsh, but it really sounds true and you will understand why. Italians are very attentive about food, they are very proud of their cuisine and it is fine. I understand them, that's fine. But the problem is that Italians always care about what you eat. They always comment and they always judge you about what you have in your plate or in your cup. That's what I mean. For example, in Italy, you can't drink coffee with milk after 11 a.m. You can drink coffee with milk with sandwich. You can drink coffee with milk, I don't know, after dinner. As I already told you, you can drink it only in the morning. You can't make big sweet coffee drinks like, you know, Starbucks type or something like this. In these cases, they will really look weird at you and will judge you, because for them it's a no-no. Or, for example, you can't make pasta carbonara with cream, you can't put ketchup on pasta, you can't put chicken in pasta, and there are many other rules and things about food in general that they are very attentive about. I mean, of course, anyone can have his or her own opinion about the food, and it's completely fine. I accept it, but I don't accept the fact that the person can comment about the things that I eat or that I drink, because you just can't point me how to live my life. That's what I mean. Next point is about relationships. Superficial relationships and gossip. Italians in general are a very communicative and friendly nation. I'm sure you heard many times about this stereotype, and in general that is true. But at the same time, most of relationships here are quite superficial. People don't open up much, and most of the topics of the conversations are also quite superficial, like weather or food or something like this. Like, it's a never-ending small talk. And if you see the person for the first time, or for example, you meet a person that you don't know that well, for me, this kind of communication is completely fine, of course, but I noticed that even among friends of the childhood, they behave quite the same. And also, in many cases, it's not very clear if the people are friends or just acquaintances, because, for example, in Italian, they don't use the words friends and acquaintances. They call everyone amico or amica, like friend, boyfriend or girlfriend, because everyone is a friend here. That's why everyone is a friend and not a close friend at the same time. So in general, connections here are very broad. So I mean, in general, Italians have many friends or acquaintances, you never know, but these connections are quite superficial. And it's the opposite of my culture, because, for example, in Russia we have less connections, but usually they are deeper than here. Another problem of such superficial relationships is that very often friends here don't help you in need. I mean, I saw many times that when someone gets to the hospital, you can be ready that your friends may not even come to visit you, but they will be very happy to drink with you at aperitivo. Another thing about relationships in Italy that I just hate is love to gossip. I mean, people gossip so much here. And for example, in my culture, usually it's considered that women like to gossip, but in Italy, Men are really the biggest gossip boys, so be careful. And also, if you have some private information, something very personal, I would not recommend you to share it with anyone in Italy, because people really can't keep the secrets, and usually all your personal details are then told to everyone, so be careful. So really choose wisely who to trust. Another point that I hate is slow way of working, and the thing that I call digital autism. Let me explain you. In Italy in general, you know that Italy is famous for slow living. And I think that nowadays it's a valuable feature, because our society really goes crazy about the pace of life and so on. But for example, when someone needs to do his job, or someone works in service and works in a very slowly and not very quality way, it can create many problems. And if you lived in Italy, or even if you had a vacation here, you could notice that in many cases you can have problems, because people are just slow, sometimes lazy, and don't do their job properly. And of course, technology could help in many things, especially in service, but be ready that in Italy, technology and all the digital stuff is not very welcome, so people don't use it much, and for this reason many services are very old school and slow. As an example, I can tell you that even in Milan, if you want to call taxi, you need to call. I mean, they have something like app, but this app never works, so you just need to take your phone and call for the taxi. Can you imagine it nowadays? And this is Milan. I mean, it's a big city, it's not some town. And the seventh point of Italian culture that I don't like is limited ideas about the world. Italians are really patriots, and I think that's a good feature, but for many of them it seems that only Italy exists, that only Italian culture exists, and they are really not curious about other cultures. Not all Italians, but I can tell that many people are like this here. And in some way, this feature helps them to preserve their culture that is famous in all the world. But at the same time, it doesn't let the country to grow in many ways. Because, of course, if you're open to other cultures, if you want to learn from them, you can enrich your life a lot. And also get some valuable ideas for your development. I really don't like this feature, because I'm a very open person. I always try to learn from other cultures, even for example, if the culture is not very near for me, maybe I don't like some things about it, I always find what I can learn from it. To be honest, when I was writing a script for this video, I found quite many problems about living in Italy, but I needed to limit myself with 7 things, just to not make this video too long and to be inside the format that I chose. So for today, that's all, and if you're curious about some other problems about living in Italy, you can always leave me questions in the comments. And also, if you liked my t-shirt with the nice embroidered pasta, you can find it in my online store. I do worldwide shipping. I hope that you liked this video. Feel free to follow me and to give me a thumbs up. See you next week. Ciao!